roundup of the week's. From Washington, D.C., I'm Alistair D'Souza. This is your roundup of the week's biggest stories shaping the United States and beyond. Welcome to Washington Watch. This week saw moves to repair relations after an unprecedented U.S.-Ukraine crisis, which had the U.S. putting military aid to Ukraine on hold. Soon after, Ukraine President Zelensky sent Trump a letter, the contents of which is said to have included an apology and a sense of gratitude. U.S.-Ukraine relations and talks now are set to resume in Saudi Arabia next week. Trump, in a tweet, now says he is thinking about large-scale banking sanctions on Russia as Moscow pounds Ukraine. Trump, meanwhile, has reached out to Iran's supreme leader. Trump says he wants to negotiate a nuclear deal with Iran. This comes amid Russian President Putin's willingness to broker U.S. talks with Iran. Trump's goal, normalization of ties between the U.S. and Iran with an aim to bring lasting peace in the Middle East. On again, off again, on again, off again. Trump paused sweeping 25% tariffs on some Mexican and Canadian goods imported into the U.S. The exemption lasts until April 2nd. It is the second time in 2 months the U.S. president has postponed tariffs since he first unveiled them. Trump delivered his first address to Congress since returning to office. On one side, plenty of claps. On the other side, hecklers. At the center, a combative president on trade, migrants, and claims over Greenland and the Panama Canal. The speech lasted about 100 minutes, making it the longest presidential speech to Congress. And the first signs of the economic impact of Trump's policies. Jobs numbers for the month of February showed slower than expected growth. Data for the next month will reveal the full extent of cuts by the Trump administration on federal jobs and in turn on various government contractors. In just weeks, U.S. President Donald Trump has upended Washington's foreign policy. He is turning foe into friend when it comes to Russia, leaving allies in Ukraine and Europe distraught. First, a full-blown shouting match where Trump chastised Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office. Then this week, he paused military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine. Trump has claimed Russian President Putin wants to end the war, not Zelensky. So what's behind Trump's general bonhomie with Putin? As Disha Bakshi reports, it may have to do with Iran, Gaza, and possibly China too.
We've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Since Donald Trump's return to the White House, it seems the US president, who has always had an affinity for the Russian President Putin, has taken it upon himself to fix the relationship, bulldozing anyone who comes in the way. Yet, if history is any indicator, the Washington-Moscow relationship has always had highs and lows with a new administration in the White House. Take, for example, under the early Bush administration and later under Obama. In both cases, in the early years, ties between Russia and US improved before deteriorating. Yet, Washington's shift towards Moscow is much more evident this time round, with US even siding with Russia in the UN, not once but twice. One will have to wait and see if this bonhomie is headed for the same fate as history has shown, or will this relationship take a new turn. Meanwhile, Russian President Putin has agreed to broker US talks with Iran to facilitate a peaceful solution to tensions over Tehran's nuclear program.
Российская позиция заключается в том, что вот эту проблему ядерного досье Ирана нужно решать исключительно мирными политико-дипломатическими средствами. Мы считаем, что есть для этого потенциал, поскольку Иран – это наш союзник, наш партнер, страна, с которой мы развиваем комплексные, взаимовыгодные и взаимоуважительные отношения, то Россия готова сделать для этого все возможное. Соединенным Штатам об этом известно.
Remember, Iran and Russia inked their 20-year comprehensive strategic partnership just 3 days before Trump took office. The first major pact between the two nations since 2001, which fell short of providing mutual security guarantees. Trump, who's known for his art of the deal, is likely to explore a pact to ease tensions with Iran for two key reasons. Normalizing ties with Iran could bring an end to the war in Gaza and even help bring Trump's vision of Gaza as a Riviera of the Middle East a reality. Lastly, while some would say that normalizing ties with Russia could mean Moscow may shift away from Beijing, the two have grown closer over the past 3 years since the war in Ukraine. That might not necessarily be the case. Ties between Moscow and Washington have ebbed and flowed throughout history, and Moscow knows that better than anyone else. Disha Bagchi for NDTV World.
This week started off with much angst on global trade, and now comes a sigh of relief, at least for now. On Tuesday, March 4th, Trump slapped massive tariffs on its largest trading partners, Mexico, Canada, and China. But then 48 hours later, he had somewhat of a change of mind. Trump put on hold 25% tariffs on several goods imported into the U.S. from Mexico and China. Tariffs on lots of goods are still in place, and the delay on the rest is until the 2nd of April. Now, some of the reasons for the flip-flop: U.S. stock markets that dropped, an outcry from the three big U.S. automakers, and a conversation with Mexico's president. Meanwhile, Trump has promised reciprocal tariffs on other countries starting April 2nd. India is very much on that list. Now, let's take a closer look at how Trump's tariffs on India will have an impact on Indians living right here in the US, and possible collateral damage from a trade war. Well, that could be shops that sell what Indians crave the most here in the US: ingredients for desi khana.
Across the US, you're likely going to find one of these: an Indian grocery store. Inside the store, you can find it all: atta for rotis, basmati rice, thumbs up, all the way from India as well, a host of spices, Kashmiri chilies, biscuits as well. Even found a jharu here, pretty much like your kirana store back home. And these establishments are run by small family businesses, people from the Indian diaspora, ordinary folk trying to make a living, and Trump's tariff threats have them extremely uneasy.
The price will be a little higher eventually because everything will be tariffed, and as it is, I mean, Indian spices and all this are a little expensive compared to others.
Any complaints from customers?
Not yet. The tariff doesn't start till April or so I don't know what's going to happen because the stuff going to come after that will impact. Right now we have enough inventory and all this stuff, so we can still do the good deal.
Who's going to bear the brunt of that price increase, do you think? Are you going to take some of that, or are you going to pass it along to your customers?
It's going to be both ways. We have to absorb it, some customer has to pay for it. So we'll see. I mean, I think it has to be worked both ways.
How concerned are you as far as business goes? Do you think that's going to impact the number of people walking through the store? Maybe not in the next few months, but maybe down the line?
It may happen, and we'll see on the time because you can't tell.
Already for goods that are like exported and they come into this country from outside, like the Indian foods that we have, they're like kind of expensive because of course in India we get it like much cheaper. So I'm sure if it increases even more, that will be a bit of a problem as far as my budget goes. Maybe like the other things that I do, I'll have to think more about them.
Right now, I would say the prices were high, and because of the tariff, again, it will go much higher. So it will definitely affect our pocket and day-to-day, spending that we do here.
Yeah, like if we are going to plan a family or to like move in together, so definitely it's going to affect us a lot more than an individual person. So
As your family gets bigger, these are little things that will obviously impact your budget. Is there any way that you can potentially look at sourcing from elsewhere? Do you think you'd want to have to diversify in some ways, you think?
Anyway you do it, he start tariffing everywhere, so it doesn't matter. Wherever it comes from, it will be tariff. So it will be expensive, more expensive.
We all love a bargain, like these flatmates who switched to Vodafone and are now paying less for their full fibre broadband, which means they can still stream 2 shows at the same time. But for less. Still gaming with mates, but for less. Reliable full fibre broadband for less from Vodafone.
Mega blockbuster Kalki 2898 AD, Sunday 9th March at 6 p.m. only on Z Cinema. And keep watching latest blockbusters only on Z Cinema. Also available on Z5.
Now I'm retired, I can spend more time with my grandson. I'm proud of him and want to help any way I can. Which reminds me,
welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance.
hi, I'd like a quick quote.
No problem. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee your premiums will never go up and that you'll speak to one of our specialists in the UK.
Well, that's good to know.
UK residents aged 50 to 80 are guaranteed to be accepted. Depending on your age, your loved ones can get a cash payout up to £10,000.
And that money can help with my funeral costs or even be used as a gift. I'll do it.
Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive a £135 gift card and free 24/7 GP advice and health services.
Thanks, Mum, for everything.
Be proud to protect your loved ones with British Seniors. To get a free quote today, call our UK team on 0800 158 552 or visit britishseniors.co.uk.
Find a pet-friendly Italian restaurant with outdoor seating nearby and text it to Luca.
Find it real quick. Send it to the click. Well, this is sick.
Get your Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra with Galaxy AI and save up to £744 when you trade in a Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra on 3. Life needs a big network.
Make this Ramadan sweeter with Royal Sweets. Delight in authentic treats with your loved ones. Order now at royalsweets.co.uk.
Will you tell me if I'm flying to Delhi to New York, can I take a stopover in Dubai to explore, or do you think it'll be too hectic?
Looking for holiday and flight recommendations in strange places? Don't. Just come to Brightson. Brightson Travel, making travel brighter.
Welcome back to Washington Watch. This week, to thunderous applause from his party, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, delivered his first speech to Congress since returning to office. It turned out to be the longest such address in modern history. He talked about the economy and in a rare comment said his tariff plans would, quote, cause a little disturbance, but we are okay with that, unquote. He pledged to fulfill his promise on no taxes and tips, and there were the expected topics of border security. He brought up Greenland again and also said that the U.S. is already reclaiming the Panama Canal. We're now joined by Jonah Blank. He is a former advisor to President Biden. He is currently with the National University of Singapore and RAND, which is a think tank. Matt Klink is a Republican strategist, and he joins us as well. Jonah, 6 weeks in 100 minutes. We've had time to digest that speech. Before we get into the star of the show, what do you make of the audience, really? The Republican side, a party fully confident in Trump, as Trump gave that address, at least in public, showing that confidence in Trump?
Yes, well, a split within the chamber is nothing new, but we've never seen a government and administration acting this way. So the Democrats really haven't figured out how to respond. We have some taking a very strong stance, like Representative Al Green, who made very clear that this was not something that he could support, particularly in his case, the destruction of Medicare. But most of the rest of the party doesn't really know how to react. About a dozen members either boycotted the night or walked out, but the rest really did nothing. And the Democrats are really going to have to learn how to become an opposition party.
Now, what do you think about the Democrats? We had hecklers, we had others waving flags that said placards saying resist. What would you say about the Democrats coming across as a coherent opposition?
Thank you again for having me, Alistair. Jonah, it's always fun to be on with you. Look, the thing about the Democrats right now, as Jonah nailed it, is that they are searching for a way to find something or anything to highlight their differences with Donald Trump. And what you saw in that chamber during that speech was complete chaos on the Democratic side. You had some wearing one color, some wearing another color, some holding signs, some not showing up. I mean, they didn't stand for a 13-year-old boy who had cancer, who was given an honorary badge to join the United States Secret Service. I mean, they looked petty, they looked weak. Look, they'll figure it out eventually, but it hasn't happened yet.
Jonah, what did you make of the Republicans, that show of strength on the outside? Clearly all support for Trump, but do you think there's some hesitation as far as all those policies that we've been seeing coming through?
Well, this is the real question of when will the Republican Party actually start representing its own constituents? Because their constituents do not want the Veterans Administration slashed. They don't want Medicaid slashed, Medicare threatened, Social Security threatened. They don't want federal workers who keep our planes in the air and who keep our food safe routinely fired by someone who is not even a U.S. government official, that is Elon Musk. But until they pass their massive tax break for billionaires and corporations, I don't think we're going to see significant pushback.
All right, Matt, now President Trump has repeatedly told us how he won't touch Social Security. This, of course, concerns people from the Indian diaspora as well. Social Security, as you know, is a safety net that around 70 million retired and disabled Americans depend on each month. But in his speech to Congress, Trump suggested that millions of people who are not even alive are getting Social Security, which is questionable. Is this a precursor to Trump actually getting the country ready for cuts to the Social Security program?
No, Alistair. In fact, but that's been a Democratic talking point since the 2024 campaign. Trump has been very strident in saying that he is not going to cut Social Security. I will highlight that, when you look at the federal budget, 2/3 of the federal budget is on so-called entitlement programs, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. He has said that he's not going to touch those programs. However, he is going to try to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. Look, the challenge, and I think that here, you're going to find me shocker that I agree with Jonah, is that the Republicans right now, this is largely still Joe Biden's economy, with Trump nibbling around the edges. Unless the Republicans can pass Trump's tax cut plan, they will go down in flames. They have to pass his tax cut plan and implement his priorities, and they need the Republicans in Congress to do it. They could do it without Democrats. It's a process called reconciliation.
Okay.
And that's how Democrats and Republicans have passed policies, major policies in the past. But again, with tight majorities in Congress, it's going to be anyone's guess as to whether or not that happened. But if it doesn't happen, that gives the Democrats an opportunity.
Jonah, do you agree with what Matt said about Social Security? Because Trump talked about people who are 100 to 109 getting Social Security benefits, a case of perhaps propagating here a lie till his base believes this is true. So we are likely going to see cuts to Social Security.
Yes, well, I agree with Matt on a lot of things. I think we both have a lot of distrust of what is going on in the administration right now. I disagree on Social Security. I do not trust for a moment that Trump and more importantly Musk are not going to try to cut it. They wouldn't be talking about 150-year-olds, millions of them, according to their figures, who don't exist if they weren't laying the foundation for trying to cut this. And Matt's absolutely right that the math doesn't work unless you either are making these massive cuts to entitlements or not giving a massive tax break to billionaires and corporations. Matt and I analytically actually agree on quite a lot. We disagree on the advisability of giving a massive tax break to billionaires and corporations, but we agree that you can't do it unless you are making massive cuts elsewhere.
I did not say that, but thank you though.
I don't want to misrepresent you, so I apologize if I have.
It's okay.
You have 10 seconds to wrap up, Matt.
No, look, I mean, what Trump has done so far has been a whirlwind. The Democrats are in complete chaos, but it all boils down to the Republican Congress needs to move forward on his budget resolution and reconciliation package, because that's where lasting change along Donald Trump's economic policy will be made.
Matt and Jonah, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Washington Watch. In other news now, thousands of young Indians in the US who migrated as children are being faced with the daunting choice of having to say goodbye to the United States. They arrived with their parents who are on work visas, and due to backlogs, neither them or their parents have green cards. So when they turn 21, they no longer have that status, because they're no longer dependents and will need to leave the US, although they've actually grown up here for several years, living here in the United States. Now, Dip Patel is a founder and president of Improve the Dream, an organization which helps kids aging out of the system. He joins us now from Chicago for Mo. Dip, thank you very much for joining us here. Now, the basis of this aging out issue seems to be the inability of people to get green cards. Has the current administration done enough to tackle that problem?
So the basis of this is obviously the number of green cards that are available, but it's also obviously impacted by country caps. So there's longer backlogs for people from India. And there's been various proposals over the years, such as recapturing lost green cards, which would alleviate some of the backlog issues. Other proposals that increase certain visas or exempt certain visas for example, people studying STEM or getting PhDs in STEM, different things like that have gotten a lot of bipartisan support. But in general, the hope is that Congress continues to recognize the economic and humanitarian sides that are needed. But really, the economic side for the United States is very strong. The economic case for immigration reform is very strong. Imagine 10,000 people who have only known America, are embedded in American culture, are having to leave the country every year. 90% of whom are either in STEM or healthcare fields, and they're having to potentially leave the country. How does that help the United States, right? It doesn't. So, and members of Congress do realize that, and that's why America's Children Act, the legislation that we've been fighting for, is one of the most popular legislations. And my hope is that we continue to push that forward, and that can be the solution that finally fixes this problem.
Okay, so DACA is a program that protects undocumented immigrants who arrived in the United States as children from deportation. But recent reports claim that a 2-year extension policy is at risk of being scrapped by the Trump administration. But this doesn't apply to kids of parents on work visas, correct?
So I think there was some misreporting that I did see where DACA was being conflated. So DACA was a program for undocumented children that were brought here, and they had a option to get a 2-year work permit and protection and be able to renew it every 2 years. So there's like a Texas court case that is against DACA, and DACA is under threat. But unfortunately, DACA isn't something that ever applied to this population. It only applied to those who were undocumented. So people in our situation who brought here legally never actually qualified for that program. So really, there was no such protection of 2 years or being able to extend it for 2 years. That's something completely different that never applied to this population. And which is also why we do need a solution through Congress that permanently does solve this issue. So yes, that is something that it never existed. So, and it's not something that obviously is taken away as it never existed.
Deep Patel there joining us live. That's it for Washington Watch. I'm Alistair D'Souza.
Our first year as a family flew by. And now, I want to make sure he'll be financially protected for all his birthdays to come. That's why I'm calling Smart Insurance.
Hi, how can I help?
Hi, I'd like a quick quote for family life insurance.
OK, you can choose a benefit amount up to £750,000 depending on your age.
That's great.
If you're a UK resident aged 18 to 64, you can apply with just a few health and lifestyle questions. For £250,000 of cover, the price starts at just £14.77 a month.
That's less than I thought. And could help my wife pay off the mortgage.
And with our Smart Family Guarantee, you'll have peace of mind.
That's good to know.
You'll also receive a 100% advance in the event of terminal illness and 10% cashback on your first year's premiums. That's the Smart Cashback. Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Protect the life you've built the smart way. To get a free quote today, call our specialist UK team on 0808 141 5855 or visit smartinsurance.co.uk.
Sign up and start saving with Quidco today. Get cashback every time you shop on over 5,000 brands. It always pays to Quidco.
Whatever you need to ask about cancer, Macmillan's free support line is just a call away.
Hello, Macmillan.
Whether it's money...
Am I going to lose my job?
Getting on with life.
Can I still go abroad? Get insurance?
Or just need someone to listen.
How do I tell them?
Our specialist advisors are here to help as often as you need them. Whatever you need to ask, cancer, money, life, call us now on 0808 134 1000.
Together, we are sight savers. Together, with local doctors and nurses, we are treating millions of people with diseases or conditions that cause sight loss. Together, with parents and carers, we are helping families live free from the fear of children going blind from avoidable causes. And together, with those who have left a gift in their will to sight savers, we are doing all this and more. Since 1950, in over 30 countries, we've provided over 1.5 billion treatments to help prevent blindness and other conditions. But there's more to be done. Together, we can create a future where diseases that cause sight loss are eliminated from whole communities. Get your free guide to leaving a gift in your will by calling 0800 038 2283 or searching Sight Savers Legacy. Leave a gift in your will to Sight Savers. And together, we can create a future where no one goes blind from preventable causes.
Ankita, what are the opportunities for women in Indian Army?
The question is which opportunities are not given to the women officers in Indian Army. The women officers now are flying combat aircraft. They are paratroopers. They are leading troops. They are commanding